Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. I'm Liz Downing with Teikametrics. I'm the e-commerce marketing manager here, and I've got my friend Ryan Cramer from Ping Pong Payments. Say hi, Ryan.
What's up, everyone?
We're so glad you were able to attend today. We don't have slides. We're just going to talk today about international expansion. Is it the right time for you? What are the differences between marketplaces, and what do you need to know about selling internationally, making payments internationally, which is Ryan and Ping Pong's specialty, but Ryan has a bunch of other specialties too. A couple little housekeeping things. We are recording this session, so it will be emailed to you and all other registrants probably tomorrow, because I like to write the recap too and get everything up on YouTube and get everything all neat and tidy. And if we mention any links or also, if you've got questions, there is a questions section in the GoToWebinar panel. Please feel free to pop your questions there. This is going to be sort of like an open, very casual conversation, so we will take questions as we go. Raised hands don't really work all that well with GoToWebinar for some reason. And also the chat makes things super confusing for me. So if you'll just use the question section, that would simple things up a whole lot. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Teikametrics, and then Ryan's going to tell you a little bit about Ping Pong, and then we're going to get into the content today. So buckle up, and here we go. Teikametrics has traditionally been involved with your advertising on Amazon. So optimizing your advertising, making sure that your budget is staying in place, making sure that you're as successful as possible. We also have Walmart advertising, but we're now with our Flywheel 2.0 platform introducing all kinds of cool stuff, market intelligence and access to capital financing, inventory insights, and all kinds of stuff like that. So I will be including a link to sign up for early access to Flywheel 2.0. And I think that's about enough about us. If you've got questions, just pop them in the questions and I'll be happy to answer, because I love talking about this company. But Ryan, why don't you tell everybody about Ping Pong?
Yeah, what's up, everyone? My name is Ryan Cramer. I'm the partnership slash influencer slash affiliate manager over at Ping Pong. I'm a little jack of all trades, but my job is to actually educate and bring brand awareness to our company. And basically, we are a cross-border payment solution. So competitor of ours would be like a Payoneer and OFX, or a TransferWise. You guys have probably heard about that depending on where you are in your Amazon or e-commerce journey. But basically, we help marketplace sellers and entrepreneurs provide them global solutions for controlling domestic and international funds. When you sign up with an account with us, it's free to sign up. Your company can actually significantly reduce your cost when receiving or making international payments. So that's either sending to a supplier, a manufacturer, a freelancer, employees around the world, so on and so forth, like a VA. If you're sending money, you can actually save by sending all those funds through us instead of like a PayPal or a bank transfer. Or if you're receiving on international marketplaces, like you're in the United States selling in the UK, Germany, Japan, Australia, no matter what Amazon marketplace, you can use us to receive those international funds, and you can actually convert it over to your local, repatriate that money over to your local currency, most often United States dollar, and you can save money by using us. We're a participant in the Amazon's payment service provider network. So that recently just came to light about 3 or 4 weeks ago. In terms of, if you're a third party participant in this program, you have to have all these check marks to make sure that money is safe, secure, and reliable for Amazon sellers. So we are a participant in that and verified to be used moving forward. With that being said, we help people obviously repatriate those funds, and that's when money converts from one currency to another. The traditional sense is if you use a bank account or use Amazon services, they charge anywhere from 2 to 4%. At the end of the day, that's money that's being left on the table. We just help you get more of it back, put it towards your inventory, your advertising, and really take that savings and put it towards other parts of your business. So can go into more details about that, but that's what we are as a holistic company standpoint.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Ryan. So it is, I think that probably the first place we should start is, how does a brand or a seller know when it's time to expand to a new marketplace? And specifically, let's just talk about Amazon. So you're selling in the US. and you're thinking about Canada, or you're thinking about Germany, or you're selling in the UK and you're thinking about selling in the US, when is it time to like hit the switch, and what do you need to do to lead up to hitting the switch?
Yeah, so first and foremost, you should be selling internationally now. I would say now is better than ever. And the reason I say this is twofold. There's not like a specific threshold that you as a seller can say, once I hit this threshold, I need to go international. That can quantify depending on who you are. This is what I tell people is that if you're not looking at international marketplaces, you're selling yourself short in terms of being first to market or being or dominating that category or product section of what you're selling in .com. .com, start there. 100%, like 10 out of 10, never start anywhere else besides .com. But from there, once you start getting the ball rolling, a little bit here, you're launching your products, no matter what strategy you're using, the easiest solution to grow your brand and start generating multiple sources of income is to start looking at those international Amazon marketplaces. Easy ones if you're in the United States, Canada. Simple, straightforward, don't have to translate listings. Even in Quebec, translating into French, not necessarily needed all the time because people have Chrome extensions, they just translate it for them. There's not many products that would actually need a listing that be translated into French. So it's pretty easy to jump into Canada. It's not as big of a marketplace, and this is the caveats. They're not as big as .com, but they will catch up. And I say will because it's different for each culture. And the reason why I say that is because people are just, oh, the money, the resources aren't needed to be in those marketplaces or grow internationally. That's not true. They're just behind, or they are just not as advanced in terms of like buyers in the United States. We're just used to Amazon, right? Amazon's been around for 10 plus years here. It's just opening up in certain marketplaces around the world. Have been there for about 2 to 3 or 4 years. So it's really just a baby in those marketplaces. But as Amazon.com grew in the United States, it's going to grow internationally as well. Because there's 7-8 billion people in the world. The United States only has 300 million plus. So if you think about just in terms of volume of people, you got to go where people are too, because everyone needs products. They need the same products here in the United States, around the world. They just need to catch up in terms of how to purchase those things. Because there's other marketplaces like Rakuten, Mercado Libre in South America. There's like Wish, WooCommerce, all these other marketplaces that are popular on different countries. In different countries, Amazon's just slowly creeping up and will surpass those eventually. So that being said,
And
yeah,
Ryan,
go ahead.
isn't it true that like the majority of Amazon FBA sellers are actually from the US?
A majority
I want to.
were. It was that way. So majority of FBA sellers used to be from the United States. New sellers entering the market are actually coming majority from China. Uh, so this is new sellers entering the market, starting their own business, or most of them are coming from China. And I think the number is pretty crazy. It's like 75% of new sellers are coming from China. It's consistent in the United States that there are lots of new US sellers entering the marketplace, but that is across the board just in the United States. But new sellers are entering the markets in like Singapore, in Australia, in Britain, in Germany, like around I think there's 18 marketplaces right now Amazon technically has. I think the most recent one is Poland, I think is what they announced a few weeks ago. But that being said, that doesn't represent like all the different countries around the world that will start to allow outside sellers to sell into, like India, for example. You can't sell if I'm in the United States, I can't sell into India unless I'm like a very big seller. And like there's been a bunch of stuff in the news like that. But once they open it up to, either Southeast Asia or just in general in India, or it's easier to sell in China, then you'll start to get, ride that wave basically of there's going to be so many people that are going to be able to tap into these marketplaces that you won't know what to do. It'll just be like this onslaught of customers that are potentially ready to purchase for you. So that being said, it's what I'm not telling people is take what you're doing on .com and replicate it and do exactly what you're doing internationally, like inventory levels, anything like that. Doesn't happen because you're probably not going to need that same like level of focus on international marketplaces that you would in .com. What I do tell people is, hey, you should test things out. Try what's going to be successful in these marketplaces and then go from there. for example, in Canada, instead of using the same order quantity amount that you're doing for .com, take maybe 5 or 10% and put it into .ca. Test it out. Take your best sellers, put them in there, replicate those listings. The only difference between Canada.ca and .com is they have VAT and GST, which is like sales tax. Those are the only differences. But fulfillment wise, there's a couple of different ways you can fulfill, either from your FBA warehouses in the United States through the North American Remote Fulfillment Program, or you can even throw in some inventory in Canada and let it fulfill, in a very popular place like Toronto, or Quebec's a little bit like one of those like weird territories. They have like very stringent, just rules and regulations in terms of finance and whatnot. But like Toronto is a big place to put your goods into. So Canada is easy to get into, but once you start going down the list of big marketplaces for Amazon, next is UK and Germany. Those two represent 70%, probably more actually, of the buying power in Europe. So being in just one or the other is going to do you very well. Germany, I think, is traditionally it was UK number 2 before Brexit, and I think Germany surpassed them, but both of them are important because of the buying power. They represent the second and third largest viewers in terms of marketplace in Amazon.com. And then third would be Japan. Japan's the third largest marketplace in the Amazon ecosystem. It's just a very difficult, I'd say difficult, it's very unique in terms of like trends and whatnot. But doing stuff like PPC, you have to replicate it over 4 different, they're cadences essentially, but it's 4 different, I'm trying to think of the word. It's not different languages, but it's 4 different ways to like speak to the customer. So you're just replicating it in 4 different ways. I guess in my podcast we talked and went over all of this kind of stuff, and it's just fascinating to see like how trends are done, how when one thing catches on, everyone buys it. So it's easy to catch on to trends quicker over there. And then also just inventory or listings in terms of images are a little bit different. They just pack them full of information. It's not just like simple, straightforward. It's like write out like on your product listing, it's the images are so packed full of information so that people can graphically look at it and like, yep, that's what I need and buy it. So those are the 3 marketplaces that in terms of volume and eyeballs, those are I say 1A and 1B are UK and Germany. And then after that's, you see Japan, but hot marketplaces are Australia. In terms of like people catching on, most sellers are actually based in selling on eBay there. It's just very popular in terms of a marketplace, but eBay is slowly starting to lose out to Amazon. So you'll start to see more people buying on Amazon, thus the market growing there. And then of course, you have the rest of EU, which would be like Italy, Spain, France. Those are pretty strong in terms of sales. And then not in terms of eyeballs, but in terms of buying power is the middle UAE or the United Emirates. It's a smaller marketplace in terms of in terms of eyeballs, but everyone over there, this is true. They have all the money that you can possibly imagine. So the buying power over there is insane. So if you're leading the way and you have goods over there, could fulfill in in the Middle East there, again, another marketplace to really take advantage of. Not a lot of competition, not a lot of places where you can test and see what's going to grow for you. But then obviously as markets pop, you look at more competition, but you would rather be first than follow suit than someone else.
Is there a certain strategy that a brand or a seller should look at in terms of their category and what marketplace they might choose next? I mean, obviously, yeah, great. Germany gets lots of traffic. .co.uk gets lots of traffic. Japan gets lots of traffic. But, for instance, I mean, I guess home and kitchen is buying like across most marketplaces is the leading category. But like in Turkey, for instance, it's not.
Right.
Like beauty and personal care is like up there with. So like based on your category, or like if you've got a luxury category, should you be looking at UAE first? I mean, like what kind of strategy should people be thinking in terms of like the types of products that they sell?
Yeah, exactly. So you want to do your research off of .com, right? This is how you launch products, right? You're finding a niche, not a if I think my pin is going to be dominant over in UK, like there might be 1,000 pins, right? I don't want to bring a pin to a market when it's so saturated. You want to find what people are searching for in those marketplaces, and how your product can actually help them and benefit them. If you want to replicate your bestsellers, more often than not, your bestsellers will translate across cultures, most typically because everyone has the same either issues or problems in their day-to-day lives. It would just be if it's more like if it's a licensed good, that's where you have to start doing research. If it's a very kitschy, very unique to a culture, again, very one-off stuff, that's where you have to start doing your research in terms of, is it culturally appropriate? Is the marketplace need that kind of thing? Like here in the United States, we buy like 5 of everything, but in a house in India, for example, they might just need 1. Like we have a TV for every single room in our flipping houses. I don't, but some people do. But that might not be true across like different countries. So maybe I don't need to throw in like or sell my TV wall mounts in India or in Australia or things like that because it's just not appropriately culturally, or they don't use them in terms of scalability and whatnot. So the traditional ones that are going to win probably across the channels are toys and games. I think that's a pretty easy one that, culturally, besides like if you need to translate, obviously your directions and whatnot, toys, pretty easy to translate across different marketplaces, home and garden or home gift, garden, kitchen. And then I would say, what was the third one I always think about? Electronics is very touch and go. Electronics is so hit and miss with different marketplaces just because of different functionalities of different units, and each country doesn't have they don't work like obviously with plugs and things like that, translations and everything along those lines. So I would stay away from any sort of electronics specifically, but any sort of like soft good that is pretty easy and small enough, it will probably translate pretty easily across the board. But home and kitchen is pretty, like I would say, is the easiest one to translate into every marketplace.
We have a couple of questions. That's
Oh man, I
exciting.
don't see any of those. Where are those? Oh, do you just get to see them?
Only
Is this
I
like
get
a
to see
hidden
the
thing?
question. Yeah,
That's all
yeah,
good.
it's a
Everyone,
good
send
thing.
in the questions. I love questions. Like, give
Getting
them,
gets people
hit
to
me
trip
hard.
him up. Well, plus Ryan's the kind of guy that does webinars so often that he'll just start typing the answer to the question, and I'll be like, "Dude, talk to me." So,
Yeah, I have a podcast that I go live every single day on our Ping Pong Payments YouTube channel. And today I did a AMA. So I literally talked an hour to nobody, like to my computer like this, on my thoughts on e-commerce right before this. So I'm good to go. Give me the questions. Hit me up.
how much coffee have you had?
This is my second cup. I only do 2 about today.
That's
It's
good.
1:30, so I guess 2. Yeah, it's not bad.
So we've got someone asking, they've sold in Germany and they've had lots of issues with tax and VAT there, and
Mhm.
they also sell in the UK with no issues. They've tried to replicate, but it didn't work so well. So any recommendations on how to get things straightened out in Germany?
So hopefully, I just actually talked about this today. We did a blog post recently. With Brexit, there are now differences in terms of compliance that you have to be very much aware of. So hopefully you got these sorted out. In terms of packaging, in terms of uh, tax compliance, you have to register separately within these marketplaces. So VAT compliance, you have to register separate in UK. I'm not sure if the person started in the UK and then moved to Germany, or what was the issue, or where was that progression. But let's assume that they went from UK to Germany. Now that Brexit happened, you have to actually replicate and have different compliance reasons for EU separately than UK. So everything that you do for the EU, now you have to do separately with the different entity in the UK, which can be somewhat difficult, but making sure that you're VAT compliant, making sure your packaging and your actual manufacturer is compliant with the EU regulations as well as the UK regulations. Because if your supplier isn't actually regulated and they don't check all the boxes with those regulated company or like with those entities, they won't let your product into the marketplace. So making sure that you follow up with those different those marketplaces, and I can send the link to like what's the difference between EU and Brexit as well.
Well,
Um,
and she said that she did start in the UK and she has separate setups for the UK and Germany. So,
mhm.
because it used to be you could just be set up in the UK and sell all
Right,
over.
and then fulfill. So now you can't do that. You actually have a lot. What we tell people is you have to send inventory to UK and then send it separately to the Netherlands. Actually, the Netherlands actually took over as the #1 port in all of Europe because people aren't just sending their products to UK now to fulfill to the rest of Europe. It's actually going directly into Netherlands, which ties into the rest of EU based on like locations and national, like where it is. That's the #1 port now in all of Europe. So sending your goods to Netherlands to get checked in, then you can fulfill to Germany and the rest of EU as well. Um, so that being said, if it's trouble with like listings or translations, you always have to make sure that you're localizing correctly with your products and whatnot. So assuming you did that and make sure that the listing is just not like something didn't translate well, or if it's a product that didn't translate well. Not everything is culturally is gonna hit in one versus the other. Start with bestsellers and kind of innovate from there. I'd be curious to see like what topic or like what category they're in and if it's saturated or not, because again, German culture is different than what UK culture is technically. I mean, they speak a different language, but their buyers are more tech savvy, so there might just be a different marketplace that more people are going for that one good versus another. So I would check and make sure that you're localized correctly, translated, your listing is translated appropriately, everything else lines up. But if you're having trouble, there are other, I'd be curious, is it customer service related or if it's more like just the product isn't selling as much? Because,
Well, she said that it was like tax and VAT in
yeah.
particular.
So if this happened recently, it might be troubling to get verified in EU, and your products are not EU certified, whether it's packaging or that your VAT or your GST or VAT compliant with EU regulators. Because even though that you might have done it just through UK, you still have to make sure that your listings are have those sort of verifications in each marketplace now. Like you almost had to split them up and redo them and re-implement them separately, even after Brexit. Now we're almost through 2 months now. People are starting to figure that out. Like, oh crap, I didn't do this for one marketplace or the other. So you might have been UK certified, but not EU certified in terms of like product listing, or your supplier might not have been EU certified. So that would be my initial instance and guess. But if it's tax regulation, make sure you're verified and you're regulated with the proper EU authorities in Germany. So
That's great
yeah,
advice.
yeah.
We have another question. If selling to Canada from the US, are you required to set up a different legal entity?
No, you can
And
sell. So say that question one more time. Let me make sure I
if you're
understand.
selling into Canada from the US, are
Yes.
you required to set up a different legal entity?
I don't believe so. As long as you have an LLC in the United States, and then you can verify, like, depends on where you're. So if you're selling into the into Canada, you can either fulfill from the United States into Canada, and you don't have to do anything, and that's the North American Remote Fulfillment Program. You just sign up with your LLC that you're using, or your business entity in the United States, and then you can verify all that with them. You just set up your storefront and then fulfill from the United States. But if you fulfill from the United States into FBA, I don't believe you still have to, because most seller accounts are just with, you can have your business one here in the United States and apply it there.
And do you have resources on the Ping Pong blog about the North American Remote Fulfillment Program that we can share in the recap?
Yeah, well, I have to look it up too, because a lot of people ask about that. So there's the same program that happens actually in all of EU too. I'm blanking on my name, but there's a couple cool programs I always like to tout with people in terms of like if they're expanding on different marketplaces or fulfilling from Amazon. One's the North American Remote Fulfillment Program. The other one is I have it down here in my notes, if you give me a sec. I think it's, just talked about it recently. Oh, the multi-channel fulfillment program. You can do, if you sell on Shopify, you can actually fulfill your inventory from FBA warehousing. So That was another program that we always tout, or I tout, I should say, not we. I speak on myself and my expertise. Uh, the multi-channel fulfillment program, and then there's the Pan-European networking program or Pan-European fulfillment program. It's a really long, like stringent mouthful of words, but you can fulfill like in different marketplaces from, again, from a Germany or from Netherlands and fulfill to like France or Italy and whatnot, just because of the EU, connections there. UK used to be a part of it, now they don't. So it's its own kind of like little stepchild of Europe. But in terms of the marketplaces, yeah, let me, the Brexit influence on cross-border e-commerce, I'll put that in the chat actually to everyone so you can take a look and all the different verifications. We list out all the entities that you need to be compliant with. So let me go ahead and put that in the chat.
And while you're doing that, in the same question about whether or not you need a different legal entity to sell in Canada, this person asked, does Amazon take care of capturing appropriate taxes?
No.
Just
No.
like when you sell state to state, country
No.
to another country,
That's on you as a seller.
You're in charge of your own taxes.
So yeah, through Ping Pong, you can actually pay those authorities. It's really easy to do. It's free to do through our program. You just need to know which ones to pay, and that's easy to find out once you fill out the paperwork and they give you all the, like, this is who you pay, how often you pay. It can be a quarterly or it can actually be on per transaction. I've even seen like sellers get like credits, like they'll give you credits, and then when you file your taxes, they like reimburse you the amount. It's almost like doing your taxes, but like every quarter. It sounds disgusting, but it's pretty easy when you have a tax accountant. Avast are fantastic at it. I'm sure I always say this, Teikametrics. Yeah, see, I said it right. We talked about this before, what it meant.
We did.
Teikametrics. Yeah, and this is what I get. I was in my head and I hesitated. Check out their partnership program first, and obviously but Avast is really good in terms of
Avast is really good. I'm working with a company called Ledger Gurus. They're really good. Avast sort of like really gets the whole international back and forth. Ledger Gurus is good too, though.
How do you say? I'm trying to put it in the text box. I'm trying to make sure I get this right. Where's the chat box for
it's
webinar?
At the very, very bottom.
Oh, there it is. It wasn't open. It was hidden. Sorry, everyone. Look at
this.
And
then whatever he puts in the chat, I'll also put in the recap email. So if you guys don't get a chance to copy it down, don't worry. I'll make sure it comes to you in the email. We do have a couple more questions though, so I think we should roll with those.
Let's roll.
We have a Seller Central account and are based in the US. What business regulations do we need to sell in other countries? Do we need business numbers? And I think that varies marketplace to marketplace, right?
It does.
Because with a lot of them, you can just like go into your Seller Central account and navigate to the Sell Internationally and just sign up for a marketplace and you're good to go. But then in other ones, you've got to have like a physical address and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So localization. So this is important too. Localization in finding a company or a group that you trust with the ability to localize is also important, because you have those entities that represent you in that country on your behalf. It's basically like a representative if something quote unquote goes wrong, that you establish your business entity there as well. Different marketplaces have different regulations, so it's important to know which ones you're going into, and you can break that down as well. Amazon does a really great job. Like, all these questions are definitely ones that they've answered before, and if you go into like getting into those marketplaces, they will tell you a step-by-step guide, like making sure you have these numbers, these business requirements and whatnot. You don't typically have to open an LLC in a different country every single time. You can use your US or business operations. It's the same thing with like your bank account too. You could use your own like US one to like receive funds internationally around the world. Amazon they'll do is they'll convert those funds for you so that it gets put into your bank account. But that's why, like, again, you get charged fees for convenience sake, right? You could do the work and like make it cost effective for you, but no one's lazy, but if they want to just get up and running quickly, like my friend Gary Wong, who's in charge of the 7-Figure Seller Summit, he was like, I just want to get up and running and sell internationally, and didn't know what I was paying. And then my accountant came to me and goes, Gary, do you realize how many fees that you're paying just in receiving around the world? And he had no idea. Now we're saving him tens of thousands of dollars just on receiving fees from different marketplaces. So it's important to look at what requirements are on every single marketplace, and that's going to depend on like where you're actually have your LLC or where you have other business entities as well. So doesn't really answer your question, but always take a look. Amazon will help you walk you through like all the things you need. It's pretty easy to get up and going. I've even heard like some certain sellers, they get backlogged with different marketplaces depending on where they're at because they need certain verification like documents. Like in Canada, they were trying to sell in the US. A seller just didn't get them. They were supposed to launch in a month or two, and it took them 7 months to get launching because they didn't. Canada shut down for pandemic reasons. They couldn't go to the bank, couldn't get like these verification forms to establish themselves as a legitimate entity. And so it kind of like delayed their process. So make sure you start now if you're thinking about going internationally, know which documents, requirements you need to start growing. And then like other, Amazon will do like the initial setup for you. And then you can start subbing out like different entities, different like banking account, like service providers and whatnot, localization experts helping you with like translations and stuff like that. That's where it comes next.
So the same would work. We had somebody say that they're currently operating in the North American marketplace and they're looking to expand they've got an underwear brand and they want to go into Japan. So if they just
Nice.
go into Seller Central and go into the Sell Internationally and sign up for Japan, then Amazon's going to walk them through everything they need to know. What Amazon won't walk you through, what can you tell them? Do you have any insights into the Japanese marketplace that you can share with our
Yeah.
friend?
I mean, they'll lay out like all the fees, all the things like how to make it easy for you. Like they'll go through the easy stuff like this is how you get your goods to like their FBA warehousing in Japan and stuff like that. Um, I know there's certain aspects that Amazon tries to like assist you on. Like they'll go to like their preferred their verified partners and whatnot and say like these are solutions if you need help with this. Like it's I think you guys are located on there if I'm not mistaken, Liz, as like a verified advertising partner and whatnot.
Oh
But
yeah.
each marketplace has their own set of like partners and like ad partners depending on the marketplace. So they will refer you to those to like help with advertising, help you with localization, logistics, like the gauntlets there. That's why they help you with that, but they won't tell you, they'll tell you how to do it. They won't do it for you. Does that make sense? Like
Mhm.
that's a step where they're like, hey, these are best practices, but we won't do it. We won't do it for you. So things like this, like webinar, are key to like obviously understand international growth. I'm trying to think of different people. There's a partner of ours specifically for UK and Europe. We have one that's really fantastic in the education and help you guys, or help sellers, I should say, get set up. I want to make sure I just know them by their acronym, so I want to make sure I say it correctly. My Gmail's really slow today, but each like country has easy ones to like get listed in. It's when you take that next level, like when you start to do PPC work, like the gauntlet becomes like a lot different in terms of like culture and how do you do it and how do you stand out. For Japan specifically, I would reach out to PPC Ninja for like helping you out with the Amazon Marketplace because Ritu Java, if you look for her on LinkedIn and you tell her I sent you, just like reach out to her because she has understood. She lived in Japan and understands the cultural impact of like what buyers are looking for, and she's helped connect people with like ways to get up and running on the Japanese marketplace. That it's a really cool and very different culture, like I said, but people are used to buying on their phones. They're used to like Rakuten. They're used to all these other marketplaces. But as Amazon's growing in popularity, like so will like sellers understand like, hey, I have to stand out somehow in these capacities. That's an easy win for me in my market. So underwear, hey, they wear underwear in Japan, so I'm assuming they'll be successful. That's awesome.
We we also do ad optimization in Japan too.
Yes.
So we've got a
And
question about
obviously,
that.
or
Ask.
anyone, like I said, like if you, yeah, sorry, I don't know all the marketplaces you guys work
That's
in. I didn't
fine.
do my
That's fine.
research before this. Some people don't even operate in like ones I think they would operate, like in like Australia, for example, and that's like new to certain places. But I always, I never assume. I always just assume like no one does it. And then look at that, everyone. If you're going into Japan, use Teikametrics.
Teikametrics.
God damn it, why am I doing this? Excuse my language.
Don't cuss on my webinar, Ryan. Um, So this is a hot topic question, and I'm just going to throw it out there, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but to the person who asked it, I've got a ton of resources for you. Once you've built a successful Amazon marketplace, does Amazon provide any services to assist in the selling of the business? Um, I think
I'll let
Ryan,
you take that one.
I think Ryan would agree with me that there are plenty Amazon will tell you what you need to know about your seller health and your metrics, but if you're thinking about selling your business, you need to consult with some people who know what they're talking about. Amazon knows what they're talking about, but to keep your best interest, keep your profitability, make sure you get paid the way you need to. I've got some resources for that. Reach out to me. I'm ldowning at Teikametrics.com. I'll put that in the chat, and I'll introduce you to some people that you need to know if you're thinking about selling your e-commerce business. So Downing at
I didn't
TEI.
hear the selling e-commerce business, but yeah, so this is a hot topic for sure right now. 2020 kind of shed light on like the golden child was Thrasio, but there's a lot of there, when I talk to like I've been talking with brokers, I've been talking with other people who have sold their Amazon businesses to 7 to 8 figures. Yesterday, I had a seller who's like, I could have sold for like $1.5 million, but I just didn't like. I know I can optimize it, and I know my multiple will continue to rise. And it's just things like that where the number was weird and crazy in my mind, but there's like 100 quote unquote aggregators out there. Not all are just going to buy Amazon businesses. They're like investments. So they can either buy or sell you or sell your business, or they can invest in your business like a growth capital, or they'll just completely, or they're a brokerage that will help you navigate and sell for you. I've had people do both ways, talk directly with aggregators and then use brokers. I think it depends on you as a seller, how you would rather negotiate that exit. Start now, start thinking how you're going to eventually exit if that's your plan. Some people are like, I'm just going to crush this and continue to build this out. But 90% of people, I would say, are in it to eventually exit their business now that they know it's an option. You're building a brand on Amazon or online in general. And depending on how you're doing that, again, part one to make yourself more valuable is save money where you can. That's with Ping Pong. You apply it to your bottom line, you instantly start to, like if you're saving $15,000 a year and your multiple is 3, that's 75 grand that you can instantly add to the value of your company just by saving money, like which everyone wants to do. So that's an example there. International growth, they're going to see you as a viable, as a consistent, and as a stable brand that can grow. The number one place where this is what a lot of aggregators will not tell you, the first place that they will throw you on to become profitable, international marketplaces. Hands down, 100% of the time, if you're just selling on US, instantly they'll throw you into UK, they'll sell you into Germany, and they'll put you into Australia. 10 out of 10. That's how they instantly become profitable. That's how they show you growth. That's how they show their investors growth. No matter what, they'll start internationally. They'll also optimize your logistics chain. So look there. If you're, working with pretty expensive, partners, that's fantastic. Or if you're not optimized entirely, that can be money left on the table, but they'll look at that. And if they can optimize it, that's also how they grow quicker. So that being said, make sure you have clean books, make sure you're paid on your taxes that we talked about earlier, make sure you're caught up and pay those authorities if you're selling internationally. And then also have a plan a year and a half out, because it's a rolling 12-month window that they look at. Sometimes even 18 months that they'll look at, but most times they'll be the 12-month window. If they can be profitable, they'll give you that multiple anywhere from 2 to 4% of your business, both inventory as well as your revenue year over year.
Awesome advice. Do you recommend DDP versus DDU prepaid duties, and is one preferred by customers over the other?
So the first part was, do I prefer one versus the other? What were the
Well, no, do you
first part?
recommend
Oh,
DDP versus DDU prepaid duties?
um,
So
and
delivery duty paid or
right.
delivery duty unpaid? And
This
what
is
it,
what I've heard. I've heard the pros and cons of both, and this is what. So there, what that is do you pay your duties of your goods up front, or do you pay it when they are sold? I think that's, or when it's up front versus when it's delivered import. Um, Best practice would be upon delivery, in my mind, just because if there's discrepancies at the port, or if like your goods are delayed, depends on how cash fluid you are, if that makes sense, to the person who asked. Just because as a person, like, you don't want your money to be out. If you're allowed to, I'd pay it upon delivery, and that way you're not, you pay up front, and the expectations when they do arrive are not, not the right goods are there, or you have problems at port. That's just money out of your pocket that you can't use later on. So it depends on how cash fluid you are. I would probably say upon delivery. That would be my or my thoughts.
Okay. My brand started selling in Canada, but didn't collect taxes for the last year and a half. Do I need to figure out the amount owed and write a big check?
Yes, you will.
Sorry, Andy.
Sorry, Andy. So yeah, this is the troubling thing, and it's not your fault. A lot of people just don't understand like the tax and regulations in Canada. GST, you can retroactively go pay this back. It's like the IRS. If you don't pay your taxes over the like so many years, they will eventually find you, or they will shut down your listing, or they will ask you for a big check. But you do owe for selling goods in Canada. You do owe a tax, so you do owe that. So I would actually probably, if you work with the Navask, like this is what we've had it is good advice. If you work with a tax professional, a quality one, even the highest end one, they're going to make sure that you're up to date, and if it's $1,000 a year as an Amazon seller, like making sure that you're compliant in all these different regulated marketplaces, versus like you trying to figure it out yourself, you not paying your taxes for a year and a half, and like maybe like get shut down. The revenue loss versus like that $1,000 that you're working with like an Avast or an entity like that, when you start growing your brand internationally, that like savings is by far and away, it's easier to work with an accountant versus like you trying to figure it out, your time, money, effort. Again, when one outweighs the other significantly, go with the one that's going to save you those three core things: time, money, and effort. So I would reach out to them, tell them what's up, say, this is where I'm struggling with, help me, how do I figure this out? How do you guys get me compliant again?
Awesome. So if you're based in the USA with an LLC and want to send goods to an FBO warehouse in Canada, you should use the North American Remote Fulfillment Program, right?
That
So
is a program that you can dip your toe. This is like the halfway point, the dip your toes into it. It still has to be accepted by Amazon. It's a program that's like kind of hidden in between the sheets of
but don't
their
you
of
have
their
to be
program.
enabled to do Mexico too? So
Yes. So North America, you would have to fulfill to Mexico as well. It's not
to
like
use
one or the
NARF,
other.
you need to
Yes.
be able to do Mexico and Canada, so have a .mx account and a .ca account.
Yeah.
And is NARF an invite only program, or can anybody?
It's invite only. It was invite only, and they said that they're going to start opening up. What I'll do, let me find the resources.
Well,
For growing in,
I've got the
oh
Seller
yeah,
Central page up, and you can
you can apply
actually,
for it.
yeah, so let me pop this link in. This is the help page on the North American Remote Fulfillment Program.
And I
Boom.
also put in the link, if you're growing in the UK and the EU, I have fantastic the global e-commerce experts there that we are partners with. They are helping United States sellers grow into UK and EU separately, like, but they know like regulations and whatnot. They will help you and align with you and make sure that you guys are aligned, and it can, go over all the regulations and whatnot easily and effectively. That's what they're great at. So go ahead and check them out as well.
And I'm having
But
trouble setting into Seller Central, but if you go to that last page I sent you and you scroll about halfway down through the page, it says how to enroll, and it'll
yeah.
take you to the page where you can enroll. I don't know why I can't get into Seller Central right now.
Yeah, it's
Anywho.
so it's really cool. The cool thing about that program, guys, is you will still get the same Prime fulfilled badges. Your goods just will get to Canada in like 7 days. Like that's Amazon's thing. That's not your thing. So that's the one thing you maybe want to look out for is Amazon does a good job of saying this is expectations, but depending on where the goods are located and when they will get delivered, but it still gives you the Prime badge, which is fantastic. It's just delivered and will be delayed like 7 days or so, like depends on the part of Canada or Mexico that they're being shipped to, but more often than not, where in the United States is fulfilling from. So more often than not, though, it allows you to dip your toes into those international markets, use your FBA inventory, so it's all talking to the same warehouse, same solutions on the back end. You're not fulfilling from your own warehouse. You don't have to put in manual numbers, but it allows you to dip your toes into growing internationally. So instead, if you say like, hey, Canada's pretty popping for me right now, I'm gonna start throwing like 1,000 units in directly to FBA warehousing in Canada. Boom, done. Instead of taking your inventory from North America and fulfilling it to different locations, now it has its own dedicated inventory. But it's like the halfway point of like dipping your toes internationally, see if it's good opportunity. The only difference would be like, again, the shipping times. If customers are like, I haven't received my widget yet, like that would be the only potential thing. But Amazon's really good at getting you your goods instantaneously, and they tell you pretty, on the user end, I should say, pretty good on terms of expectations when you should expect it.
Is it better? I love this question. Is it better to register for multiple marketplaces at once or focus on one marketplace at a time to make sure each one is getting registered correctly and that you're getting your listings right and all that kind of stuff?
If you plan on going into those marketplaces, sign up now. Like sign up now.
So
Yeah.
just do it across the board, do everything all at the same time.
Well, this is the thing, like Amazon's continuing to innovate and grow. It depends on actually where you want to grow. Like don't just go like register in the UAE if you're never going to sell in the UAE. But to get your brand registered, well, again, with different requirements for different countries with brand registrations, you being first to market, you can really start to put in play, if you have the bandwidth and you are going to, and you're looking to grow internationally, absolutely start in those top marketplaces and start looking how you can start diversifying yourself and standing out in those marketplaces. You can go into you can go right now into Amazon.au. You can search for that right now, and you can actually go and search your brands just one off. If you have tools like a Helium 10 or other tools, you can look at those marketplaces and see how you'd fare in terms of like just competition in general. I'm formerly a viral launch, so my background is obviously market intelligence, data, and analytics. Use tools to like help verify program products and whatnot to make sure that if you are selling there and there's competition not happening in, Australia, of course I'm going to start like laying that up there. So then once you start like building up all these different marketplaces, you can start looking individually at like which ones are easy ones right for me right now. Australia, perfect. A little more competition. Germany, maybe I'll put that in the back of the line until I, really figure out how to localize, how to like really stand out, build out my brand and whatnot, and then really kind of take it from there. Like the low hanging fruit, go after those first. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've got some people freaking out about taxes. So
Hey, it's tax season. We're all freaking out about this. I'm not a tax professional, so again,
nor am
I
I.
will like for all the advice I give you, this is like what I understand as an e-commerce like business service, and also like from what I understand from other sellers as well. But I will answer your questions to the best of my capability, and if I don't know, I'm going to refer you to a tax professional.
But
Just
you
take that
do
into account.
know that Amazon does not collect and remit all duties and taxes for you.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, so if they do, they will give you a voucher program. It's like a voucher program and how it's set up, and you can distinguish that however you want to pay. Again, that's all cash fluidity, in terms of like if you pay then or if you pay like every time a good is sold. So again, go to your Avast, go to a tax professional, and like say what's the best way for you to get signed up for taxing purposes in those entities, like in those marketplaces, and they will tell you like the pros and cons to both. That's how I understand. And again, with Brexit, it's changed a little bit, and like what they require you to do, what's subject to VAT, because they lower the threshold. It's like 15 pounds. Every good that's sold above 15 pounds is subject to VAT. And then obviously logistics in terms of inbound goods are subject to like regulations and whatnot to each marketplace. So again, just ask the questions. I would say to an Avask, just they have resources on their websites that are fantastic. Again, the money that you spend with a tax professional so you don't have to educate the waters is above and beyond what you can do by going on webinars like this. But doing those, there are different ways to like pay out your authorities.
Here, I'm going to put a link to Avask in here for you folks and you can tell them that we sent you.
Do it.
Uh, yeah,
Say
totally do
Liz and
it.
Ryan sent you, and that they hopefully, like, if it's from a partnership perspective, they should have a nice sign up uh, program or coupon or something like that for you guys through Liz and her team.
And I can tell you people to talk to too. So Ryan, what is ping ponging?
What's ping ponging?
Yeah,
Is
somebody
that a
asked.
verb?
Yeah, I
Someone,
guess.
oh,
Yeah, so I think they want to know why your company is named Ping Pong.
yeah, good question. We are not a table tennis company. We did not start selling table tennis online. So if you think about the table tennis game, you have a net and you have, just like tennis in general, you have a back and forth. Because we're a cross-border payment solution, you're sending and receiving money back and forth across different country lines, in theory, that like quickly and effectively. So we, thus the name ping pong. That's a very simple, and I would change the name if I could. Like I wouldn't have said ping pong as our company name, but I'm just an employee. Like I joined 5 years later. So in theory, it's across the net, across the borders, payment across, it's nothing too sexy or anything. We didn't steal like Amazon's name and put it into our company service or anything like that. So I give us points for creativity in some capacity. It just doesn't translate all the time.
Um, Vask supports international marketplaces. It's not just the UK.
100%.
They're based in the
Yes.
UK, but they support all international markets.
100%. Yeah, they're
Uh,
fantastic.
that was a question there. So in the last 9 minutes here, in case anybody else has questions, and you guys can just pop them right in there, we will answer them. But let's talk a little bit about specific challenges and the main questions and objections you get in terms of like what should people look out for. So they're launching, they're optimizing their listings, they're translating their listings, loyalty translations, by the way. But now it's time to actually like get paid, right? So
Mhm.
how does it work when you work with Ping Pong?
Yeah, good question. So Amazon's on a very tight ship in terms of paying out their employees, right? Every 2 weeks, every Friday, it's like payday for if you're an employee. You get paid out your profits at the end of the day. You can go in your Seller Central account, like, oh, Amazon took a fee for like referral fee. They took out like my FBA fee. They took out my like all these other fees and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you do make money. Um, so what they would do if you're selling in an international marketplace, you have onboarded and put in your bank account information. Of course, that makes sense. But what Amazon will do, they won't like line item it. They will convert those funds for you through their own program, and they will convert those funds to your local bank account. And they know this because the information you put in is where they'll know like what currency to convert it back to. So if I give them a US bank account, they're gonna know, oh, convert it to USD. What they do that is because Amazon's so big and it's a for non-bank or a bank in general, any financial company, they hate making small like no offense to the seller, they hate making small transfers and conversions for a couple of reasons. No offense to you, you're not big enough for them to care. Like for them to make transactions and for them to spend their time to convert that funds over and put it into another bank account at small value like that. Again, this could be like hundreds of thousands of dollars, not big in the eyes of a bank. Like, trust me, to convert it and spend the time and money and effort, they will charge you a fee just for the convenience of it. And that's what first to market always is, right? For the convenience of our services, for us to innovate for you and do this for you, we will charge you whatever we want. So, but that's where we come up and kind of clean up and help other people save more money, is because instead of them paying out like your bank, and you can't go to a bank and say like, oh, you are my only option. Like they say you're the only option to help you out. You kind of have to go with them, right? And you'll have to pay those fees. Now you have options. So that's where we come up. We actually have partnerships with tier one banks where you open an account with us. You're actually getting a digital bank account with Ping Pong through Citi, Chase, Wells Fargo, HSBC. You probably name a bank that has like, you say one of the top 10 banks in the world, we're probably working with them more often than not. But we actually are opening up a digital bank account on your behalf instead of you going in person to open that up. What's different with us, and if you're selling on international marketplaces, you just put in that receiving account. Again, you can have up to 10 different currencies with us: the USD, the Canadian dollar, Mexican peso, the pound, the euro, the AED, which is the United Emirates dollar, the Australian dollar, the Japanese yen, Hong Kong dollar, Singapore dollar. I think I hit all of them. So top 10
Good
currencies
job.
in the world. Look at that. See, off the top of my head, I do this for a living. Um, so those 10, you can actually receive funds in and like hold it onto it instead of like, for example, if I get 10,000 pounds, anytime money converts, no matter if it's a bank or an ecosystem, anytime it converts from one currency to another, you get charged a fee. And that's the same thing with us, but banks do it on a 3 to 5% charge up, like upcharge, essentially, when you convert it from one to the other on top of whatever rate they're giving you. Our rates are real time, so you can see what the value of the transaction is going to be, what the currency rate is. And then also, we never charge you more than 1% for converting your fees in our ecosystem. So you can receive as much money as you want in a UK bank account or that we set up for you. You can receive as much as you want. You will never get charged until you convert that over to a different currency. So once you do charge it over, depends on how much you actually do, but that fee basically we charge you for conversion goes down drastically. So if you do $10,000 a month in receiving or sending, it goes down to 0.85%. And then it goes down even further if you're doing more money. So the more you work with us, the more money you actually do save. So it's actually a benefit. The reason why we have such a low rate is because we have these direct partnerships and we do so much transactions internationally. We only help e-commerce sellers. You can't use us to pay out like your buddy or your friend for pizza. Like that's impossible. We don't do that. We help businesses and e-commerce businesses, not just on Amazon, but you can use us for your accounts on Shopify. You can use us on if you're in Rakuten or WooCommerce or wherever around the world. You can have it all in one local hub, and you can see all of the comings and goings of your funds. So that being said, it allows people to save more money holistically. You just put in that bank account that we open for you instead of your natural bank account. We have ways to like tips that allow you to like do it without getting flagged by Amazon and shutting down your marketplace. So, but yeah, that's what we specialize in is e-commerce and helping businesses save more money. So
Awesome. We have a question for me, so I'm going to do that real quick.
yeah, do it.
And so Eric asks, we are currently fulfilling in multiple markets, USA, UK, EU, Australia. I've noticed that there are not as many advertising options that I have in the US. Do y'all have any idea of when the advertising platforms will mature in the other markets? So I asked David Hassler, who's a team member here, and he says that the US is really a blueprint for every other marketplace. So if it's released beyond beta here, there's a good chance it will make its way to any of the marketplaces soon. So the answer is soon. Ads will mature soon, but and ad products will roll out based on market size. So those top ones that Ryan was talking about obviously are going to move faster than the smaller marketplaces. But he also said that the first movers in any of these marketplaces are able to capitalize on relatively low CPCs. So the lack of maturity shouldn't necessarily be viewed as a negative because there's plenty of upside even with basic forms of advertising because you have an advantage over the competition. So soon there will be more mature, there'll be more ad options in other marketplaces, but for now, the ones that you have should perform for you relatively or spectacularly well, depending on how you're managing your advertising. And we can help with that if you want.
Of course, absolutely. That's why we're here.
Well, Ryan, we are right at the top of the hour. It's 1 minute till. Thank you to a super engaged, super intelligent, very inquisitive audience. If you've got additional questions for us, I will supply a way to get a hold of Ryan in the email that will come from me with the recording, with the recap. So that's all coming out to you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. And big thanks to Ryan Cramer from Ping Pong.
Thanks, guys.